Last time you watched a millionaire drink himself to death, one glowing bottle at a time. Eben Byers chose his poison. He bought it. He believed in it. But the radium craze had another set of victims. They didn't choose anything. They were young. They were poor. And they were told again and again that the glowing paint on their lips was perfectly safe. At night, walking home from the factory, their hair shimmered, their clothes glowed, their skin gave off a faint green light. The town called them the Ghost Girls. Nobody understood yet that the glow was the sound of their own bodies being eaten alive. It is 1917. The place is Orange, New Jersey. A company called United States Radium has a product that feels like magic. A glow-in-the-dark paint they call Undark. It goes on to watch faces, clock dials, instrument panels, and with a world war on, the military wants thousands of glowing dials for soldiers reading gauges in the dark. The work is delicate, so the company hires young women, many still teenagers, for their steady hands. The pay is excellent. To get hired here is a stroke of luck. There is just one technique they all must learn. To paint a number small enough to fit on a watch face, the brush has to come to a perfect point. So the women are taught to shape it with their mouths, brush to lips, dip in the paint, brush to lips again. They call it lip pointing. With every single stroke, she swallows a little more radium, and nobody tells her to stop. In fact, the opposite, they're told it's good for them. So the girls have fun with it. They paint their fingernails to glow. They paint their teeth before a night out. They are, quite literally, having the time of their lives. And it is killing every one of them. Here is where this stops being a tragedy and becomes a crime. While the women lip point radium 10 hours a day, the men who run the company handle the very same substance very differently. The company's chemists work behind LED screens. They handle radium with tongs. They wear lead aprons. The men in that building understood exactly what they were working with, and they let the women lick it off a brush. The first to fall was a young woman named Molly Maggia. It started in her mouth, an aching tooth. The dentist pulled it. The socket never healed. Another tooth came out. Then her jaw itself began to crumble, soft and rotten. At one appointment, the doctor reached in to examine her, and her entire lower jawbone came away in his hands. Molly Maggia died in 1922. She was 24, and the company's doctors recorded her cause of death as syphilis, a disease that carried deep shame, conveniently smearing her name and hiding what had really happened. She was not the last. One by one, the Ghost Girls began to break. Anemia that wouldn't lift, bones that snapped under their own weight, spines that collapsed. And still the official line held, the paint was harmless. Then one of them decided to fight. Her name was Grace Fryer. By the time she understood what the factory had done to her, her spine was collapsing and her jaw was disintegrating. It took her 2 years just to find a lawyer willing to take the case. When she finally did, 4 other dying women joined her. The newspapers gave them a name that would outlive them all, the Radium Girls. The company fought dirty. It denied everything. It stalled, knowing the women were running out of time. But the public saw 5 dying young women dragged into court by the corporation that had poisoned them, and the public was horrified. But being horrified is not the same as winning. The company had something the women did not: time and money. Its lawyers understood a cold arithmetic. Every month they delayed the case, the women grew sicker, and a dead plaintiff cannot testify. So they stalled, they filed motions, they asked for postponements, they scheduled hearings for dates they knew the women might not live to see. When the women finally got their day in court, they could barely use their own bodies. One could no longer raise her arm to take the oath. Another had lost so much bone that she could not sit upright without pain. They had once been the healthiest young women in their town, strong enough to work 10-hour days. Now they were skeletons in their 20s and 30s, carried into the courtroom to face a row of well-fed company lawyers who calmly insisted their employer had done nothing wrong. The company brought its own doctors, experts they were called. Men paid to look at 5 dying women and testify that the radium had nothing to do with it, that whatever was killing them, it was simply bad luck, a coincidence, anything at all, except the glowing paint they had been told to put in their mouths. The fight did not end in New Jersey. Hundreds of miles away in Illinois, the same poison was at work in another factory, and there one woman refused to let the story die with her. Her name was Catherine. By the time her case reached court, she could no longer walk. She weighed less than a child. She gave her testimony from a bed carried into the hearing, too weak to lift her head. As the company's lawyers argued, she had waited too long to complain. She had pieces of her own jaw, which had broken off, kept in a small box. She presented them as evidence. She won her case. She died weeks later. They had names, they had families, they had birthdays and favorite songs and plans for lives they never got to live. The companies that poisoned them had spreadsheets, and on those spreadsheets, each of these women was a smaller number than the cost of making the paint safe. That is the whole story in the end. Not a monster in a laboratory. Just a quiet decision made in a comfortable office that some lives were cheaper than a correction. The women glowed in the dark while they were alive. What they left behind was something far brighter. The simple, hard-won idea that a company does not own the right to kill you slowly and call it your own fault. Their suffering rewrote the law. Because of the Radium Girls, workers won the right to sue employers for occupational disease. Evan Byers was poisoned by a lie he chose to believe. The Radium Girls were poisoned by people who knew the truth and decided their lives were cheaper than the cure. In our next file, we meet a CEO who knew, for years, exactly what his product was doing. He had the proof on his desk, and he kept selling anyway. Subscribe to Cold Ledger, because behind every fortune there's a ledger, and some of them are written in red.